Hey, what's up? If you're watching this video, it's probably because you either attended the workshop or you're watching this video on my YouTube channel for the first time. So, for people that are watching this for the first time, just for reference, I'm making this video as a follow up or more as a reference guide for people that attended the workshop and they just want to go through some stuff that they may have missed during the actual workshop. So, I'm just going to skip through a lot of these slides. Basically, I talk about who I am, fourth year CS, previously interned at Shopify and did startup called GCT. Yeah, the prerequisites, please have Visual Studio Code installed and a GitHub account installed. So if you don't have that yet, just pause the video, then unpause when it's back. Visual Studio Code, you can literally just Google it. Just download it here. And GitHub, creating a GitHub account. Make sure you use your school email because you can get those student benefits, which is pretty cool. Then yeah, in the workshop, I also talked about why you should have a personal website. So the whole topic of building up a personal brand, showcasing your projects, and just having an easy for a side project if you haven't really coded outside of school before, which is pretty good. For the workflow of a project, I usually generate a list of requirements. So from the user's perspective or a random person visiting your website, you want to know why or like what the purpose of that website is. So like what features you have. And for a portfolio website, it's pretty straightforward. You just want to know more about the person outside of their resume or like outside of their LinkedIn account. So you want to generate a list of requirements. So you want to generate a list of requirements. Then you want to create a list of features based off of those requirements. Then since it's just a portfolio website, it's very straightforward. You just want to have like a home section, an about section, definitely a project section where you can see like a list of projects and maybe a contact section. So next, you want to choose your technologies based off of like your list of requirements and your list of features. So usually with other projects, it's a bit ambiguous based on the list of features. So let's say you wanted to create like, let's say like, literally like a thermostat device in your house. Then those technologies are kind of ambiguous, right? You could do a lot of stuff with it. But something like a portfolio website, it's very straightforward. You want to use HTML, CSS, some JavaScript as well. Just for a beginner website, for people that don't have any experience with any of this stuff, that's like a pretty good set of technologies to start off with. Then afterwards, you want to start by designing a simple architecture. So you want to think about like the front end, the back end and stuff for those type of projects. For our portfolio project, it's pretty straightforward. So I'm gonna go through this after actually. So after you do your simple architecture, you want to build out your project. So we'll be building out the website structure using HTML. We'll add some features using JavaScript. Then we'll be designing the components using CSS. Then this step, which we're not going to be doing in this video, is testing and refining, which is basically after you finish your product, you want to test it and make sure that there are no bugs or try to remove as many bugs before we launch. Then the last step will be launch. So yeah, the building blocks, as I said before, we want users to know who you are, your past experiences, and your resume. And yeah, I went through all of this in the PowerPoint. I'm going to link this in the bio as well, or the description, I mean. So you can just read through this if you want. And this is a recording link that I'll add after I post this video. So let's start designing it since you already know our technologies. So for our home view, it's going to be pretty straightforward. It's literally going to be like, we have a nav bar, so we're going to have some elements. I like to see it on like the middle of the screen. That'd be pretty cool. Then we can have our name in here. So we have like Richard M. Then we'll have like a brief description in here. Then we'll have like a button, something like this, where you could click on it. Then you'll be able to go to the next section. So I'll call this the home. So yeah, that's what we want to do here. We also have our about section. So our about section is pretty straightforward as well. So I'm not a UX designer or anything, so I'm just freestyling right now. Just go something like this. So I have like a nice image here. I have like our about title, some content about us. So this would be like a nice paragraph. What else? We can create a contact section. Yeah, I think our about, honestly, the contact section is pretty straightforward. I'm probably gonna do the exact same thing as the about section, but our contact section will have the image on the right, just to add some variety. Okay, something like this. Then we'll have our portfolio section. basically have a list of projects. So ideally I want to have something like this, like some squares on here. Oh shoot, some squares. We'll name this like projects. So you can see my drawing isn't that good. Then inside of this, it would be like image. Then we'll have some like the name, the title, some content, and we want to have a button to view ourselves. Then we should be able to view our resume, probably in our about section. So we'll do something like here. Okay, so yeah, this is a very simple architecture. We're just designing the page like in a very high level. And eventually we'll try to build out a product at the end, or our website at the end. So we'll get started with the coding. First of all, github.com. This is my account, but if you didn't already, it'll look like this. Click on this, and let's create a new repository. So I have this, which is the methacks workshop. This is the one I already made, but we're gonna recreate it. So we're gonna call this, personal website, personal website Notion, because I love Notion. Hashtag sponsored. So this part doesn't really matter. The repository name kind of matters. If I were you, I would just name it like personal website, but I already have a personal website on here, so I'll just name it personal website Notion. You can make it public or private, doesn't really matter. Then this stuff doesn't really matter right now. So you create repo. Oh my gosh, I forgot to say as well, please have git installed on your thing, because I'm going to be using some command line git stuff, which is in here. And yeah, it might be kind of important. There's probably a way to clone yourself on GitHub without it, but it's good to have it. So anyways, I'm just going to go to my desktop folder. Go to my projects. Remember, this is all terminal. It's not a part of the workshop. It's just me doing stuff with Linux. So we're in our projects folder, and we're just going to clone this in. So we're going to clone this repository. Oops, slaggy. Okay, so we're going to clone this repository into our folder. Super simple stuff, just using the git clone command, pressing enter, and it seems that you have appeared to clone an empty repository, which is completely fine. Now we just cd into here. Oops. And run the cool code command for VS Code. Don't want to spoil this. So you need Visual Studio installed. Git is not actually mandatory, but I have it just because when we're hosting the website for other people to view in the future, then having a GitHub account is important because we'll be using the GitHub pages and also show you how to do it through Netlify. Both should be pretty straightforward. So we're going to start off by creating a new file called index.html. This is where our website will live. So HTML, if you don't know, is a hypertext markup language. A lot of people say it's not a real programming language, and I agree. It's just a markup language where you can put elements inside your web page, and this is how you view web page at the end of the day. So a lot of big websites like Google, YouTube, Facebook, they all use these web frameworks, but they all get built into native HTML. And when I say native, I just mean a really long HTML document with all the functionality and stuff. So yeah, we're just starting off with the bare bones basic, just building out the website structure. So we start off by declaring the doc type HTML, which is important. Also for the extensions, you should have syntax highlighting like this, if not already. I think it should be automatic on VS Code now. Otherwise, I think you could do HTML syntax. Yeah, so it says, oh, it's deprecated. So you could probably click this. So actually, I'm gonna install this right now. Why not? Okay, now once that's installed, what you have to do is you got to create your HTML document. So we're gonna click HTML, and this is the very basic starting website. If you've never coded with HTML before, just put hello world, and you just got to go to the folder where your HTML file lives, and you click on it, and boom, you created a website. And it's that simple, and it's super easy. But we are here to learn a bit more and to make our website look like an actual website. So what we want to do now is, notice how if I updated this, so it says hello world right now. I took it out, so I'm going to put test. So you notice if I wanted to update this, I had to refresh every time, right? Then if I want to do test 1, 2, it doesn't do it automatically. I need to refresh. So to make it refresh automatically every time, I have an extension called Live View, which I'm going to be using throughout this, or it's called Live Server, I guess. And yeah, just install this extension if you haven't already. Then at the bottom, once you installed it, you should probably refresh your VS Code for it to show up if it doesn't show up automatically. You just want to click at this button at the bottom. This is Go Live. Then it will run this file. So it says it's on your local server, index.html. Once I add content, put hello world. Oh, I have to save it first. Gotta save it first. Okay, hello world. Wait, not part of the body. Oh, okay, that's why. So it's not possible without a header body tag. So I probably need to add some stuff first. So I'm gonna add a head. I'm just gonna show you guys how it works quickly. I'm gonna go a bit ahead of myself. So it says hello world. So what happened, the error that I got was that it's not able to run live server without a head and body tag, which I guess makes sense. So for to save it, I'm not refreshing anything, it just updates automatically. Okay, so basically we want to start off with the head of our HTML document. So actually, let me start with the basics. I actually forgot to explain this part. So with all HTML tags, you want to create a tag with like a less than bracket, HTML, then a greater than bracket. Then it did it automatically. But if I wanted to close off this element, so right now it's open, so you could put like any amount of content you want in here. If you wanted to close it, you would have to do the opening bracket slash then the same name here. And this is the super like essential basic syntax for HTML. So this is the basic syntax for HTML. And yeah, basically every tag needs to have this. If you want to have a tag, so let's say you want to have like an image link. So an image actually has an SRC, and this is automatically, which is annoying. So an image has an option called SRC. So I do an option by typing in some text like SRC, then putting equals, then putting the value inside here. So this is also useful for something like a class or an ID. And there's probably a lot of other things I forgot about. So you do an option or an attribute using the word, like the keyword equals and the value in here. So for us, something like SRC doesn't have anything inside of the text, like inside of the element, because it's just text, right? So you want to put the image SRC, which means the source link in here. So it could be like /text.jpg. So something like this. Then you want to end it like it's already telling me what to do by doing a slash, then closing bracket. So instead of doing something like this, where you have the closing bracket and there's nothing in the middle, you just go like this. And it's the exact same thing. SRC equals this. Oh yeah, then boom. Is there any questions about that? Well, if you do, tell me in the comments. Anyways, so yeah, these are the essentials to it. Pause if you want to learn some more about this, or if what I said was wrong, definitely correct me in the comments. I don't mind. Or you can just Google. So with a lot of web development, a lot of the stuff I'm going to be doing today is pretty trivial. And I just remember it just because I've done it a lot throughout the years. But, you know, I often forget about stuff, and you'll see me Googling throughout this video as well. All right, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to start by actually coding. So yeah, by the way, if you're wondering what this is called Copilot, which is basically autocomplete, but for coding. You notice how it does everything for you, or like it gives you some suggestions of what you want. We're not going to be using it that much throughout the session, but I'll use it whenever it's necessary. So something like this, I wouldn't just press that, then I'll be like, okay, that's it. Definitely want to teach you guys stuff. So we're going to start out by the opening HTML tag and the closing. So we're going to start off by creating a head tag. So this is all the content that lives on top of here. And it's also the metadata content, which lives. So let's say you want to search up cool website. A lot of the content that lives like in here, or it's probably not a good idea. Probably like, if you guys are aware of embeds, you know, like on a Discord link, how it shows you a small preview with like the website image and some text about what the website has. It would show up like because it lives in here. So the most basic thing you could do, first of all, we need to do some pretty trivial stuff, the char set. So if you guys want to know what this means, so let's say you have a website on a server, then you want to send the website like through the internet. It has to convert it to machine code then you have to encode it again. So this is like the type of encoder that you're using. Very trivial. You don't need to know that. You also need a meta tag for, not that, but probably something like this. Okay. Viewport. Okay. Oh, let's see. Here we go. So yeah, I like forget this stuff all the time. I honestly just copy and paste it. Or a lot of frameworks, you don't even have to worry about this. This is all like put in already. But this basically says when you're scaling the device, you wanna like when you're having this website on mobile, you wanna tell the HTML page like how you want it to scale. Don't worry about that. The thing that you should worry about right now is the title. So this is the title of your web page. Right now it just says this, which is the path to it. But I'll put our personal website. I'll put my personal website. After you refresh, it should show up. My personal website. There we go. Looks very cool. Okay, then yeah, we're also going to be doing this thing called a link tag. And this link basically tells us like where to get our styles from. So this says like this is like the relationship. It's like a style sheet, and this is the reference. So this is the path to it. So we just do style.css, and we'll create this, and we'll worry about this later. So remember, like we talked about in our requirements doc, we want to build out the website structure first, add some features, then design the components. All right, so we want to continue by creating a body tag. So the head tag is all like the metadata and the stuff that lives on top of here, and also this icon, which I won't be changing, but I'll show you afterwards. The body is basically everything here, all this stuff. Then we'll also be adding a script tag later on, which will have some code in here, and this will be in JavaScript. So we can say like hello world. This basically creates a pop-up that says hello world. All right, cool. And every time I refresh, it shows up there, but we'll not worry about this right now. We'll do this later. Remember, as I was saying before, this has the closing tag and the opening tag, and the names are the same. Okay, to start off, we're going to start off something super simple by, we're going to start off with our home page. So we're going to see what we need. Sorry, let me pull up this thing on my iPad. So on our home page, we notice that we have a nav bar on top. So I want these buttons to link to the different sections of our web page. So it's going to be a home button, an about button, a contact button, and a portfolio button. So I'll add something here. And I want this to be in the middle. So for styling stuff in the middle of a web page, you don't have to worry about that right now since we're building out the skeleton or the HTML code. So we're going to do something super simple by creating a list tag. So we're going to create an unordered list. And look, Copilot basically spoiling the show. Anyways, so a UL is an unordered list, which comprises of multiple LI tags, which are list item tags. Remember, if you guys don't understand any of this already, you can always just feel free to Google or pause, take a second, then you just go back for the video. So on our LI tag, we want to have the word home. And we also want this to link to the actual home section. So we're going to do something called an A tag, which is basically like a linking tag, which could link to an external website. So let's say if I put youtube.com and I go here, click on it, bring us to youtube.com. Remember, I just want to note that this is in a string, not like this, which is kind of weird that they have the syntax highlighting here. But yeah, this would not work. It has to be in a string. But for our thing, we're going to do hashtag home. And I'll explain what this means in a bit once we start having the actual content for home. Then we'll do the exact same thing for the about section. And these are the times where I'm going to use Copilot just to autofill stuff, just to make stuff go faster. Contact, definitely want that. And we want a portfolio section or a project section. And probably doesn't recognize. So we're going to create a project section, call it projects. Okay, cool. So this is going to be our nav bar basically. So we have these four stuff, which is pretty cool. You notice when I click on it, it changes the URL. So it appends stuff onto the URL, which is pretty nice. So we know what part. And this is also good Because if you're sharing this link with someone else and you want them to see a certain section of your web page, then they can just click on this actual link and it'll go automatically to that part. So how do you do that and how do you link everything together? Let me show you. So we're going to create a div, which is basically kind of like a containing element that contains some sort of elements inside of it, or just some text. So you can do text. And yeah, we could put like other elements in here. We could put a h1, which is like a title tag, basically. It'd be like title. So you notice that. Then we can do something called an h2, which is basically the same thing as a title tag, but slightly smaller. I don't know. Sorry, it's called a heading tag, or I'm not sure the actual name of it. Yeah, section heading. Then this is also a section heading, but just smaller. Then we could do this h3 all the way to h5, I'm pretty sure. But then you're getting a bit excessive. Okay, cool. So yeah, so for our title, obviously in our design, we want to have the words Richard M. Put Richard Marquez in here. Then we're going to have our little description, like subtext. And this will say, we're going to say a 21-year-old computer science student at TMU. So this is like the initial view. So when the person views the website, they just want it to look like this in the beginning. And you also want to have this button that'll be able to view more. Sorry, this button right here, which will be able to view more. So I'm going to create a button tag using the word button, obviously. Then we're going to click view more. Then we're going to have an on click as well. And this on click will do something in a bit, but I'll show you how to work around this later. So yeah, that's basically it for one section. Without any of the stylings applied, this is all you really need. So we're going to move on to the about section and the contact section, which will be basically the same thing. Let's see. So for the about section, we're also going to create a div as well to represent that we have a new section in our code. Also, since this is in the home, we should also probably include this inside of a div as well. This might be important in the future since this is a different section. Okay, so the about section, we want to have an image here, and we want to have a title and some text and a button to view your resume here. So we're going to be having an image tag, src equals something. Then we also want to have an alt tag as well. So for accessibility reasons, you know, people that are using screen readers, it's good to have an alt tag just because they can't like actually view the image. And as I mentioned before, oh my gosh, this is kind of annoying. We're going to end it off with this tag. So I'm going to put a photo of us, but I actually don't have any photos. So I'm going to create an assets folder in here. Be dragging some stuff from our projects folder. Let's see. For our previous one, you can get all of these nice images. I'll move in here. So yeah, stuff with relative pathing. This is a quick lesson. So we're currently in this part of our folder, but if we want to go inside of the assets folder, we just have to do / the name of our folder. Then you want to get the actual name of the file. So we're going to do image1.jpg. And that's basically it. So we're going to see, oh, image is spelled incorrectly. I meant to do img. That's the correct tag. So if you go here, it'll have this nice image, similar to like Notion's drawing style. And yeah, that'll be like the about image here when I start styling everything. Then I also want to encapsulate this inside of a div as well. Just you notice how like this is on the left side and this is on the right side. So I know that we're probably going to do some stuff with flexbox in the future, just to align this stuff on the left and this stuff on the right. I want to create another div, and I'll explain briefly how flexbox works in the future. But yeah, I just wanted to keep that in mind for later. So we're going to have some other content we want to create. So we notice how H1 is our like biggest title or like the biggest text on the screen. We want to create some hierarchy. So we're going to have an H2 tag to represent our about me. So this is kind of like a subheading compared to the big title of the web page. They're going to create a div which will have some text inside of a p tag. And we'll just put like lorem 20, something like that. So again, what I just did is I used a web extension to create some filler text. Yeah, there's nothing else to explain. That's basically it. So I'm doing this. Just gonna add some content. We're gonna add this and style it later. But for your actual website, you should definitely write some real stuff in here. So moving on. Sorry, we're gonna do the exact same thing with contact, but we're going to switch the order. So we wanted the image on the right side this time. That means, so if you look at the code from top to bottom, this will also represent left to right. So I'm gonna be moving this image, which is previously on the left because it's coming up first, to go on the right. Now that's actually, now that I say it, that's a pretty bad way of thinking about it. But for the simplicity of this website, you can just think about it like that. Yeah, the portfolio section, which gets a bit weird. So I'm gonna create a new div again. So yeah, definitely want to avoid this trend of being a div. Like you could name this like section instead. This could probably work. This is just for accessibility reasons. Like naming everything div is a bad practice to have, but it doesn't really matter. So I'm gonna just unname it actually. I was just showing you like being a div programmer isn't that good for accessibility reasons, but it's whatever. Let's see. So we're gonna create a project section. So we definitely want to have the h2 that says projects. Then we're gonna create a new div. So you notice how we have like a card for each project. I want the style to be pretty similar across all of them. So I'm just gonna create, or I'm gonna build out one of these project cards, which is gonna look something like this. Then I'm gonna basically copy and paste it multiple times to represent all of our projects. So we're gonna create a h3. Remember, keeping the hierarchy, we have h1 as the title of our website. Then we have h2, which are the subheadings. So the project headings would be in h3. So put project name. And I also want to have a div here as well, which will represent some project content. So I'm going to put some lorem. I'm going to put p tag in here. And a p tag, I forgot if I mentioned, but p tag represents a paragraph. So we're going to have some content in here. Then we also want to have a button that says view project. And we also want to wrap this around an a tag as well. Oh shoot. Oops. Sorry. I want to put an a tag in here as well. So when we click on it, it links to something. Definitely change this. Actually, let me search up how to link up. Oh yeah. Okay, cool. They literally say that. So you wrap the a tag. Sorry, we wrap a button with the a tag. Then it links to something else. That's life. Don't like it, but that's life. Probably a better way of doing this. I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you know a better way. Shit. Let me see. What's next? Yeah, that's basically it for the project section. So we're just gonna be copy and pasting this a couple times. Sorry, we're gonna copy and pasting this a couple of times since this is a new project. And I'm gonna so I'm just clicking on these buttons on the side, sorry, to hide the section of code. And let me format this one time. So I did that by doing, on Mac, it's Option Shift F. I don't know what the command is for Windows, but probably something similar. So I just click on this, then it'll hide the section. So click on that, click that since I don't really care about it. And I just want to build out one like completely and copy and paste it and change up the values. Okay, so what's up? Sorry, I'm back. So what we're gonna do is that I'm actually gonna move this contact section at the bottom here. And I'm going to wrap everything inside of a really big div called a container. During the workshop, I said that I wasn't going to explain a lot of the CSS stuff just because I believe that it gets pretty boring after a while doing or like explaining the reasoning behind a lot of the CSS. But for the purposes of this video, I am going to explain probably the majority of the CSS I put in or the stylings I put in. So feel free to skim through that part if you don't really care about it. But if you do, and if you want to learn more, just stick around. So this is what our website looks like right now. Sorry, I kind of just coded everything. I didn't show you guys. So we have our li elements here. Remember, I have our h1 and our h2. We have our view more button. And we have, yeah, all our cool stuff, contact, and nice, we have our image here. So let me change the image src or the source to something like image 4. Oh yeah, that's a good vibe there. Low key. All right. Anyways, so we're gonna start by styling the web page. So basically when you style something, so let's say this div element, if you want to create a style onto it, so test element, create it, where is it, test element on here. So we want to give it either an ID, a class name, or both. So you could do ID equals, remember I was talking about the attributes with the equal sign, then the value, either in a string or like a template string. So you can do ID equals this, which is the ID name, or class equals this with the class name. So in a CSS file, how you would reference that is with the exact same thing. For an ID, you would use a hashtag. So use hashtag ID name. Then we want to add a CSS property. So we're going to do like background color is red. And low-key, I think it might be, yeah, sorry, I'm dumb. It's quick color, not background. Okay, so if you change that background color to red, as you guys can imagine, the background of this is going to be red. And you notice this element spans all the way across the screen. And also, we're going to create a class with a class name. To create a class, you do period, then the name. Then we'll do background color blue. Now, for the people in the crowd or people watching that are taking 530, what would the color of the background be? If you guessed ID, you're right. It would still be red because ID is a specific element and it would take precedence over the class. For the purpose of this video, don't worry about it. Anyways, yeah, so IDs are pretty cool because we can do this thing where we can reference the ID using a hashtag, the name. Then when you click on this button, it would actually move to the element that has that ID. So we're going to add this ID equals home. This ID, sorry. Oh shoot. Let's see. Yeah, ID equals about. And I think Copilot can do the rest for us. Oh, probably not. Projects. And ID equals contact. Okay, so you're gonna notice when I click on contact, it's gonna like automatically go down to the section like that. That's pretty cool. Same with projects, same thing with about, and same thing with home. So yeah, it's pretty cool. I think in general, it's better to definitely use classes because the whole topic of reusability and scalability, if you're using IDs on everything, then it's gonna be specific to one thing. And you want to have designs span across like multiple components. You want to have classes, obviously, because you want to have the same styles. I hope that made sense. So we're going to create a class name. Actually, we're going to create a container element. So you noticed how everything in here should be in a container. And that will be important in a bit. So we're going to have basically the entire web page in a big container. And this will have some key information. So what key information could it be? So a container, you want it to look like this. So you notice, I don't know if you guys noticed, but in my styles, I have like some padding on the left and right of each section. And this isn't me just doing it because I was too lazy. This was actually pretty intentional. And some people might ask, like, what's the difference between padding and margin? Well, it's pretty straightforward. So when you're debugging a website, you want to right click on the web page and click on inspect. Then this whole view will pop up. So what you want to do is you want to look through here. Sorry, I'm going to show you the parts of it. So you're going to look through here. This is all of like the web page basically. And if you guys, you know, as a kid, if you ever wanted to like change the content of a web page to prank people, this is how you would do it. Sorry, let me refresh this. So yeah, so this gives a pretty good explanation on the difference between padding and margin. Basically, padding affects the inside of an element. Then there's a border. The margin affects the outside of the element. So for us, we're going to be adding some padding between the left and the right. To do that, we need to create a container element, which spans across the whole HTML document, basically. And we want to say padding 020. Then we want to have this thing called margin 0 auto. And I don't want to explain this too much, but basically it says that the top of the web page is going to be 0. Then the rest of the margin will be calculated automatically. And when you do this and you calculate a certain width, then the web page will be centered. So we'll do width 70 view height. So as long as the width isn't 100%, this will center your div or whatever element you want. It'll center it horizontally. And you can notice like this, everything is now centered, which is nice. Also, I want to add some stuff. Sorry, let me take out this. Pretty useless. Take out the test element. Okay, I took that out. This is nice. I want to add some stuff that would apply to the whole HTML document. So you notice that, I don't know if you guys can tell, but there's like a small margin. Yeah, there's a small margin between like the top of this page and the actual HTML content. So to remove that, we can call the HTML element, which is this like entire thing. Usually it's a very bad idea to update this, but there's small like certain things that make sense. So we're gonna set the margin and the padding to 0 automatically. We're also gonna import a font, which I need to get from a previous project. Let's actually take this out, cd x. Oops. Let's see. So I'm gonna import this font. So basically this is just an import call to call this Google API font, which is enter, and we get all the different weights. And to import it, we just do font family, we do enter, then we'll do sans serif, just to specify that it's a sans serif font. And we could also change the background color of this. I actually don't like having a completely white because it kind of burns my eyes. But I kind of like an off-white vibe, so we'll do F5, F5, FA. And yeah, so you can notice this is white, this isn't white. And all the font of every element is changed, which is good. Also want to change the text color. So personally, like with this, I don't like the black, how it matches with this. So I'm doing like a very dark gray. Now this is the part that I didn't want to explain during the workshop because this gets like pretty boring. And a lot of CSS is very stylistic. So it doesn't really matter. Like a lot of this stuff is very subjective. I think this looks nice. To another person down the street, they might think it's really ugly. So I don't really care. Something else we want to do. So you notice how I click contact and it goes there automatically. This is cool and stuff, but I'd like to have it like scroll pretty smoothly. So what we can do, because we can add a property called scroll behavior, and this would be smooth. And again, this is something that's very trivial and you probably won't need to like know, because like this is something you could definitely Google. When I say trivial, I mean this is stuff that you can Google and you don't need to know it off the top of your head. And for someone like me, you know, I'm just looking off my iPad just as reference, so it's easier for the video. So we're going to notice our navbar section, which is going to be in here. So I want this to look more like this. So some things that you notice is that this is in a vertical list. I want it to be horizontal. And I also want to remove this text decoration as well. I want to create a class called nav container, which will contain all the different nav elements. So I want to create a class called nav, which will hold some properties for the actual like list. Then you also want to create a class for each nav item. So we're going to call it nav item, nav item, nav item, nav item. And we also want to add a class for each a tag. It's going to be called nav link. I'm going to copy and paste this actually. Okay. So basically you're going to know in a second why I did this. For the nav container, so we're going to create a comment called nav. By nav, I mean like navigation bar, not the wrapper. So what we want to do is, if you notice on the page, it's actually centered. So we're going to center it by using this thing called flexbox, which is, what is flexbox exactly? I know as it as like a responsive library. Yeah, it's a flexible box layout. So we're going to like create a flexbox by calling display flex. Then we're also going to be justifying the content into the center. And we're going to align the items to the center as well. So what justify content does is, once you create a flexbox, which is the container, So you're gonna have, like, let me draw this out. This will probably make more sense. Say you have this. So this is your flexbox. If you want to justify something to the center, you do justify content center. If you want to align it to the center, so let's say it's like something like this. What align does, it aligns it vertically. What justify content does, it aligns the content horizontally. Very trivial, but it's something you do often, so you'll probably remember this if you code a lot. So yeah, just like that, you have everything in here. Now what other stuff we want to do is we want to create a nav. Then this will just be this is just some styling for it. Margin top 20 pixels, margin bottom 10 pixels. So you're not going to notice right away, but once we create the nav item, the big thing to make these elements appear side by side is to do display inline. So you can notice the periods are gone, or like the dotted points are gone, and everything's side by side. So once it's inline, we can start like changing the spacing of everything. So we're gonna add the padding to the top is gonna be like that. Then we're gonna create the margin bottom. So margin top like adds margin to the top, margin bottom adds margin to the bottom. Now we also want to add margin in between items. So we're gonna do a padding. Sorry, we're gonna add padding in between the items. Do 30, 0, 30 pixels. So you notice like how I do multiple values. I probably explained this before, but I'll add this comment on the top. So the order of it is basically you're gonna do you do like width slash padding, or sorry, margin. So the value is gonna be top right, bottom left. So this first value affects the top, the second value affects the right, the next value here would affect the bottom, and the next value here would affect the left. So you notice everything's on the far left because I affected this. Or if I do this, I could do like something as well on the right. Oh, you can't see this because it would just go all the way to the left of the page. Or another way of writing this is you could just do padding right, which would be 20 pixels. Same thing. Again, this is very trivial. Like even when I was building out this website, I had to Google it. So yeah, so this is the nav bar. It looks pretty straightforward. Notice that the nav, like the links of each button are purple because we clicked on it already. And also there's an underline that we don't like. So we can remove that by affecting the actual A tag. That's why we have nav link in here. And we can do text decoration. There's going to be none. And we're going to change the color of this to match the color of everything else. So it's going to be this same value up here. So this looks like really good already. And we're going to increase the font size, be 20 pixels, and we're going to increase the weight of it, 500. So the weight is basically how bold it is. So you notice in here, we have all the different font weights. So it goes to 900, and it starts at 100. So if you 900, I'll just show you as an example, like something really deep like this. Kind of like 500 though, nice vibe. Okay, anyways, that's almost it. So another thing we want to do is we want to add a bit of UI interaction, or UX interaction, I mean. So like when you click a button, so let's go on YouTube, then let's click a button. So you notice how I hover over it, then it's pretty, okay, well that's a bad example. Okay, here's a better example. So when I hover over this button and there's like a small circle, it's a good UX because you're like, the user is able to know that you're about to click on the button and you're hovering over the right spot. It's just like really small things that really improve the UX of your page overall. So to do that, over a hover, you need to add this special symbol called semicolon. Then we're gonna, or sorry, this is colon. Then we're gonna do hover. So this basically says, whenever you're hovering over this element, you want to apply these styles. So styles we're gonna do, we're gonna change the color to something a bit more light. So when you hover over it, look like this. So I don't know if you guys can tell on the video, but it got slightly more gray. And this is pretty easy. So also when you press a button as well, let me go here. So you notice when I press the button, the color of it changes as well. That's also part of good UX design. So I want to do that. And you can do that by doing active. We're just going to change the color. Same thing again. Let's make this a bit lighter actually. Change something like, oh shoot, I mean to put something like this. Okay, let's see if this works. Like that. So when you click on it, goes to this section, contact, to this section, projects, to this section. Wow, looks great already, isn't it? So let's continue. So we have the nav bar, which is complete. This looks pretty good so far, not gonna lie. Just wanna change this a bit. Yo, I don't know why I say this all the time. I should start in here. Okay, so you want to have like the text in the middle of the page. Also, we don't want anything else on this page. And we want to have a button here that says view more probably. So probably not gonna, I'm gonna scrap that idea. Just gonna have a button that says view more. Or like we'll have some cool text in there. So you're gonna start off by creating a class for this. So we're gonna call this class the home title. And we're gonna call this section home as well. So it's called home in here. We have home title as well. So we're gonna tell home. So we're gonna have the home title, which will display. So we want it to have, sorry, you want this element to be in the middle of the page, like horizontally and also vertically. So like we discussed before, we do display flex, justify content center, line item center. And we want this whole text to be like the entire page. So we're going to change the view height to be 100%. So we're going to call this height, should view height, should be good. Oh, I only applied on this. Oops. So we want to apply this on everything here. So instead of applying this on just the title, we're going to make use of the home ID. So this is like a very one-off thing, but honestly, for this use case, it's fine. Just because it's like, there's only going to be one home page, right? So we'll be fine. Okay, then it looks like this, which is all right for now. We'll just fix the spacing up a bit. So we're going to call this home title. I kind of want to call this like home description. Oops. Home description. Then we're going to call this button call this a generic button. Because we're going to be reusing this button style throughout our page. If you notice, we have our view resume button here. We also have our project portfolio button here. So we're going to be using this. We're going to build it out now. Then we'll be using this throughout our website. So for the home title, what we want to do is we want to align the text to the center by using text align. Then we also want to make our like text really big, 72 pixels. And we want to change the weight so it's bold. Yeah, so something nice and big like this would be very cool. For the home description, what we want to do here is we want to make this as a flex box where we align the text to the center. And we want to justify content in the center. We want to make our font size 20 pixels similar. I think there's something else that's 20 pixels as well. Yeah, just to keep it consistent to the nav bar. Make it 20 pixels. They want our font weight to be 500, so it's not as bold, which is nice. Okay, for the next section, I realized that it's probably better if we wrap this into a div. So this button into a div, so we can apply some spacing onto here. Then we're gonna have like a generic button class, which is gonna be this. So we're gonna create a class called home button, which will just deal with the spacing of the actual button. So for the home button, what we want to do, so we want to have the display as flex. So we're just gonna have it aligned in the center of the page, which will have justify content, the center, and we're gonna have the top margin to be 20 pixels as well. And to tie everything together, since this is a flex box, and this like, here, let me show you. If we inspect a page, everything is responsive at the moment because the flexbox applies to all these elements. How would we fix this if we have multiple elements, but we just wanted all of it to be centered into one? We would have to contain it. So we just create a new div that will contain all the other elements. So when we run this, basically in home, where we have This is the code that centers the content in the middle. You don't want to like center every single thing, or like we don't want the flexbox to point to every single thing. We just want it to point to one div, and the div will center everything to the middle. So it'll be something like this. And I think this is pretty good. I actually don't like the spacing between these two. Might change this. Yeah, home title. Let's see. Margin. Bottom, which is 0 pixels. Yeah, I'll change this to 0. Okay, this looks a lot better. Yeah, I don't like this button either. Let's create the button right now. Why not? So what we want to do is we're gonna make, yeah, see, you see Copilot does a lot of stuff. We're not gonna use that. We're gonna do font family. We're gonna make it to enter. So I feel like, I'm not sure what elements exactly, but there's some elements that don't get this font family when you're changing the styles of it. I know buttons are one of them. I know A tags are one of them, but I'm not sure what else. So we need to change the font manually. We're gonna need the text color. So color is text color compared to the background color, which is gonna be, I have this design guide. I wonder where I put it. Actually, it's fine. We're gonna do B3A 5F2. I'm just looking at my iPad for like the design guide. We're gonna remove the border here. Sorry, you can see this. This border looks pretty ugly. Let's remove it. The padding is pretty bad right now. I'm gonna add more padding. Okay, so this is a great example of like padding versus margin. So if we were to change the margin of this to be 100 pixels, it would change the spacing of the outside of the button. But if I wanted to change the inside of it, I would have to do something like this, where it's like really big. But we want the button to be like kind of like this, like we did in a design. So we want some spacing between the left and right, but not that much between the top and bottom. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna do 10 pixels and 20 pixels, stuff like that. What else do we have to do? Let's create some margin for fun. 0, 10 pixels, 0, or I could just go like this. Okay, then font size is gonna be 16 pixels. Keep it generic. And the font weight, we want to keep this at 600, nice and bold, which looks pretty good. I'm gonna have a border radius as well. I just want to make my thing look like a bit rounded. I think that's a bit too much, to like 5 pixels. Yeah, so I don't want it to be completely squared, but I think it's pretty nice. And you notice how my cursor doesn't change when I'm like hovering over it. I want it to change just for the UX reasons to match like something like an actual button like this. So I just change the cursor whenever you're hovering over it. It will change into a pointer. Okay, so what we need to do is we also need to add, over here we're talking about the UX where you have the click, then the color would change. And when you hover over it, the color would change as well. I want the exact same thing to apply here. So what we want to do is we want to do generic button hover. Is this color good? Oh, I actually like this. Okay, let's see what Copilot can do for us. Active. This looks nice. Oh my goodness, this looks perfect. Okay, then we also, yeah, I think that's pretty good. So for connecting this button to show the next, I'll show this later when I go over the JavaScript section. But yeah, that's basically it for the homepage. To me, this looks pretty good. Okay, on to the next section, the about. So this is good. We're gonna make use of CSS classes because it's basically gonna be the same as contact, just different orders. So for the about section, let's see, where should we start? Okay, so we want to have an image on the left side. Do I want to have some text, like a title here, some text, and a button that says view resume, and that will link to the resume. So we're gonna go to the about. So since we're generalizing it, I'm gonna call it content. Class equals content. And yeah, we're gonna call this like content section 1 compared to this section, which would be called content section 2. So section 1 and section 2 will basically deal with the spacing to have this on the left side and this on the right side, and vice versa for this. Then for our image, we want to create a class called content image. here. And yeah, so we'll start off with that. Let's see. So for our content section, what we want to do is we want to create a padding between for the top. So we'll call this, actually we'll do like 50 pixels. I think that would work pretty well. Also we want to have some padding at the bottom. And we want it to be we want this to be like side by side, so we have to make this into a flex. And this is something for mobile responsiveness. Also not going to really talk about it in this video because I think it's out of the scope, especially if you're just starting off with CSS and HTML. But this basically means that when the column, like when you go to a mobile screen size, it'll wrap. So this like piece of content will go under here. So it would be like this, then it would be the about, then some context here because the content is moving below. But yeah, don't worry about that too much right now, man. You can watch another YouTube tutorial on how that works. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to create our content. Oops. To create our content. What was the next class we wanted? Content section 1. And we'll create content section 2. Since we're just using this to deal with the spacing, so we're going to be adding this thing called flex basis, which basically says like what percentage of the flexbox do you want your element to appear in. So this will be 35%. So 35%, then this will be like 60. Because if you add it to 100, then it'll overflow automatically, which is not good. Basis 60%. So see this. Oh yeah, see it's already overflowing, which is not good. So the reason why that's happening is because we have our content image and we need to make the image smaller. So all I gotta do is content image. We can just make the width 100% and we can add a nice border radius as well. So this'll, since it's 100%, what it's gonna do is it's gonna fit into this like 35% flex basis, like so, and it'll add a nice border radius so it's nice and rounded. And I want to add some space in between here. So we're going to add some padding left. We'll add like 60 pixels maybe. Ooh, that looks nice. All right, cool. So that looks pretty good already, not going to lie. What we want to do next is we want to make this title bigger. So I think we use like the same title for everything. So we're going to call this like content section title. Like the about title, even the project's title and the contact me title is going to be the same. So we're gonna create that reusable class, or not reusable class, just a class. Section title. Then we're gonna, what size should we do? Let's make it like, what is this? No, not bad. It's pretty good so far. Okay. Then this text looks pretty cool. I would like to see it like spaced out a bit. So we're gonna create a class called content section text, and we want to just add content section text. So I don't like how it's so spaced out, or sorry, how it's so like tight together. I want to make it spaced out just because in my case I probably won't have that much to say about myself. So here, this is my actual website for reference. Only a couple of paragraphs. Yeah, so it's like not that much. I'm just gonna copy and paste this, add this to my section. Let's take this out. Okay. Or let's go like this to format it. So what I want to do is I want to increase the line height. So the spacing in between each line to 30 pixels. Then it looks something like this, which looks really nice in my opinion. You know, obviously you could change it up if you'd like. I actually want this to line up to the top. So let's go to the content section title, margin top 0 pixels. Actually, no, I lied. I like it the other way. It looks a lot better. Actually, let's see. Yeah, let's change it back. Okay, cool. So the next thing we want to do is we want to apply the exact same thing, but for the contact me page. And through the use of classes, it's so simple. So we do class equals content. And what we want to do now is apply the exact same thing, content section 1, which would show up in here instead. Sorry, it'll be here instead. Section 1, you want to do class equals content section 2. I'm going to have a class here. I think it's called content section image. Ooh, maybe I might have mistyped it. So I'm actually just going to content image. There we go. All right, cool. Everything lines up. Oh, so this is interesting. So you notice how I have my padding on the left here and I want stuff on the right here. We're going to add this one-off case. We're going to create an ID called contact section. Contact section. So this contact section, which is very similar to contact, which I personally do not like the naming of right now. We just want to add some right padding. So padding right, we'll add 30 pixels. And hopefully this fixes it. No, it's contact section. Oh shoot, I actually wanted to apply this up here to the right here by accident. I wanted to apply this to the like actual container that it's in rather than the content itself. So, oh, this still isn't working. Wonder why. Oh, you need to go like this since it's an ID. Okay, well, yeah, 300 is definitely too expensive. Okay, yeah, so this is a quick workaround. Yeah, so what I did here is that I created an ID for this section where I removed the padding left, which basically overwrites the styling and adds padding right. So in practice, this is like pretty bad, but for this context, I think it's fine. Contact section. And I should honestly just like remove this. No, that would not make sense. Okay, so this is just overrides a couple of things. And we're gonna name this the contact like right padding. So once I do this, so by changing the name of this, it's like very obvious now that we are affecting the right padding instead of the left. And yeah, these two sections looks pretty good. So now what we have to do finally is the project section. Yeah, it's looking pretty good already for the styling at least. So for the projects, like I said before, we're gonna do one project. We're gonna like do the styles for one, then basically copy and paste it for every project we have. So since I don't know if I mentioned this yet, but we're gonna use a reusable class name, but that doesn't really make sense. So just a normal class name, content section title. And this looks good. I'm gonna change this to the like content section text as well. Yeah, this looks pretty. So by the way, we're just looking at this, like this one thing. The button should be the generic button. Nice, looks pretty good. Oh, I forgot to add a button here for the about me section. Let me do that quickly. Let's create a button, the about section. Yeah, we could just throw it here, I guess. Button. Now the A tag. View resume. Then href. Ooh, then we're gonna do is dot slash. So we're gonna link this. Like I said before, we're gonna link this to our actual resume. And I'm actually gonna get my real resume, put it on here. It's in here. Then I'm gonna rename this to resume.pdf. Actually, I'll put this into assets. Throw out an asset really. Just make it a bit more organized. So do assets / resume pf view resume. Then we're gonna add the class like we did before called generic button. And I think it should be good. All right, cool. How simple it is. So yeah, for the project section, we're just basically reapplying the same classes that we made. The button thing, the title, we have to create our own title now. So you have to call this like project title. Maybe basically the same thing. We can do whatever you want. So let's see. So the size of this, I think it's like, wait, let me take this out. I think the title, like content section title, it's 36. So we could do like want to say 28 maybe. 28 pixels, do font weight, let's do 700. And this is the whole part of CSS where it gets really subjective. So you just do what you want. No one's really going to look at you like that or like call you out for stuff unless it looks really ugly. And also in this, if you look at the design, we have this, we're working on this section, but we also want the image to show on top. So we might need to do some more CSS work over here. So we add a class name called a project item. Item. Then we want to have a container for this. So remember, we need to add containers because we want to create the spacing or like have direct spacing for the flexbox. Or I guess direct spacing doesn't really make sense, but you want to have like the content inside of a container so we could create the spacing or like to create the correct layout for the different pieces of content in here. So we can do project item container. Then we're gonna name this to, wait, we want to take this out here. Sorry, we want to do a div with the class name of project item text. So we want to have our image in here, then all of our cool stuff in here. Okay, so we want to create our image with our src. Let's do like image 3. I don't think we used that yet. Okay, so for our image project container, well, you guys can probably guess what we're gonna do. Very similar to the other stuff, but we just have to create a flexbox. So item's gonna be the part where we declare the flexbox, or create the flexbox. Then the container in here, call this image container, and project text container. That's probably a thing. So project item image container. Just gonna type out these classes to do project text container. So on our project image container, we want to have our flex spaces to be 100. And we want our text container to also be 100% as well. So you want it to be, oh, that's not it. I don't know if you could describe, oh, why isn't it showing up? Image 3. Image, src, image 3. The JPG image. Oh shoot, I need to put this at the assets, that's why. Okay, so you can notice it's like this, then this. So, you know, similar as before, you know what we got to do about this image. Definitely a class name called project image thumbnail. Project image thumbnail, and we just gotta do the width 100 and at the border radius, so it'll fit into this flex spaces. Then you also need to do some stuff on the actual like flexbox to make it go on top of one another. So we could do display flex. So we do flex wrap is wrap, then we'll do the flex is equal to 1. So it's gonna be something like this. Also, we want to change the background color of the whole like project. So we're gonna let's make the background color white. I think that's pretty good color. Okay, just so it's a bit more obvious for you guys. For the text, I wonder if content section text. I wonder if we could actually we should do this on the container. This container will do padding like 20 pixels around everything. Okay, that looks pretty good. Or actually, just some parallax. Or not parallax. I forgot the actual word. It's like a visual difference. Okay, yeah. So this looks a lot better. Yeah, for the entire thing, I want to add a border radius as well. So add like 15 pixels, so it looks nice and cute. So yeah, that's basically it. We have to apply this to everything, and this image is really big just because we don't specify like a certain height. And we want this to be in this format where we have multiple projects beside each other and it like wraps. So we just have to create another element and everything should hopefully space out together. So we'll create a class. Hold on. Oh my goodness, that is way too much stuff. So we're gonna this class into like something like project list. And this will contain all the different projects. I think this would be good. We're gonna remove all of this. Okay, so what does this point to? So this points to this. So we're gonna create multiple of these, about like 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Just gonna take all this out. We don't really need these anymore. If we do, we will look. Okay. So project list. So we're gonna create our project list above our project item. Remember, the order doesn't matter. I'm just doing this just for like, so it's easier to read if we need to fix something. So project list. Also want to add a comment that this is for the project section. Okay, so we're gonna make this flex, and we're gonna make this a flex wrap as well. So everything is good. Let's see. Oh, see, just like that, everything looks pretty good. Now what I want to do is I want to create some margin in between the elements. So in project item, I'm gonna have a margin. So we're gonna do 0, 20 pixels, so it gets left and right. And yeah, just like that, looks pretty good. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. Let's actually change up the image so it looks a little nice variety, you know what I mean? Okay. All right. Wow, look at that. We're almost done. Oh shoot. Let me add some spacing in here as well. So the title, project list. Okay, so project list, some margin, top, maybe like 30 pixels. Okay, cool. This looks nice as well. Ooh, also, I want this to line up. So I guess we'll just affect the right margin. So pixels 0. Okay, so what I did here is that I changed the right and the bottom because when it overflows, I'm assuming it'll just be like on top of one another. So we'll probably need this in the future and 0 to specify the last one. Okay, what else do we have to do? Yeah, I think that's basically it. This looks pretty good. Okay, so for the JavaScript section, actually let's try out everything before I forget anything. About view resume looks good. And yeah, the projects, oh shoot, that looks weird. Oh yeah, these buttons don't link to anything. Well, you guys know if you wanted to link it to something, just add the A tag in here or wherever the button was supposed to be. You guys know, like, yeah, you just have like the, add like the YouTube link in here. So just link your external project out here. It could be GitHub repo or anything, doesn't really matter. This looks pretty good. So we're gonna add some cool stuff with JavaScript. So JavaScript, I don't want to talk about this too much about the history, but basically, actually no, I'll talk about it during the actual workshop. It's fine. So if you guys don't know JavaScript, you're watching a video, man. Just Google it. Who cares? So what we're gonna do is that we're going to dynamically change this so it matches with my age. And we're gonna do a very simple version of that. To create a variable in JavaScript, we start with the word var, or we do let if you want it to be able, if you want to be able to change the value. So we're gonna let current year equals, then we're gonna call a new date object and call the get full year method from that date object. So syntax is like pretty similar to Java without like the types and stuff. Okay, then we're gonna change the current so we're gonna change a current like text inside of here. So to do that, we need to create a span. So span similar to a div, the way that like contains information, but the way that it differs is that it doesn't actually affect the spacing. So here it should be good. So you notice how there's no spacing here. If I were to make this to a div, it would literally be a new line. Or I think this is a problem because home description is probably, oh yeah, this is a flexbox as well. So I don't know why we have this, not gonna lie. Okay, cool. That fixes it as well. Okay. So we just did text align center. That fixes it. So we're going to do a span. Then we're going to do a class. We're going to give it an ID, actually. We're going to call this like current age. So this seems pretty weird. But with JavaScript, what you could do is that you could actually change the DOM, which is like the document object model, which is basically all of this HTML code here. And you can get a certain element inside of an ID and you can change the property of it. So we're going to take out the 21 and we're just going to we're going to be basically inputting a value here through JavaScript. So we're going to do document, and it says here, it kind of spoiled it already. So document, which is basically the whole HTML document, dot get element by ID. And we're going to find it, which is current age. Then we're going to change the inner HTML. So inner HTML equals current year minus our birth year. Our birth year for me is 2001. So we refresh this. We forgot to add the word ID in here. So document.get element by ID. So we're going to get the current age element, and we're going to change the HTML to be the current year minus the birth year. So it'll be 21 in here. Then I can take this out. Anyway, so yeah, I have no content in here, but through the use of JavaScript, we're able to automatically put our age here. And this is good. So like every year you don't have to update your actual age. So you can expand this a bit to literally get your like actual birthday and just putting it here. But for privacy reasons, I'm not going to do that. Something else we could do is we could create, or we could have a content delivery network in our code as well, which is basically getting some code from a library, from an external source on the internet, then inputting it to our website. So something we could use is type.js, which is a nice typing animation library. Yeah, if you look through here, it's super simple. All you got to do is you get the script. Oh, it's already in here. Yeah, so you get the script and you paste it in here. Now, what you got to do is you could use this like however you want. So you don't have to call the import statement anymore because it's already in here. And what we're going to do is we're going to change this text. See here. Just going to change this to auto type. So similarly, we're going to be rendering some content inside of here, but the styles will match home title. So just looking through the docs, we can see. So we're going to create a new typed object, which gets the class name, which we want. So I'll type that in right now. Equals, I think it's like auto type. Is that what we wanted? Yeah, auto type, and I'm gonna have the options. The options looks like one big object. So the strings that we want to go through is we could say, hi, I'm Richard Marquez. Say hi, I'm a front-end developer. Front-end developer. Hi, I'm... Damn, I don't know what else to say. I'm him. So we'll keep that in here. Something else we got to do is another option. Sorry, another option that we can create here is adding the type speed. So I'm going to do 90. So basically, like, this is the delay in milliseconds, I'm pretty sure. So the higher number, the slower. I don't want it to be too fast. Then I think you're able to, like, type backwards. Or, like, backspace it. Back speed. Okay, yeah. So back speed is going to be, like, 90 as well. Oh, yeah, we're going to turn on looping as well. So it goes through all these elements. Then it will continue going back. So after, like, it goes to this one, it will go back to the first one. Then we also want to have a delay in between each of them. So we're just going to do it through this. And yeah, that's basically it. So let's look at our website. Oh shoot, I forgot to add new typed. Okay, so we're going to create... Okay, so let me go through this code for people that haven't used JavaScript before. So we're creating a variable using the word let or var. Remember, I explained the difference briefly. And yeah, so we're creating a new typed object. The first option or the first parameter is the class name we want it to affect. And this squiggly bracket, as you can imagine, is an object. So object has the property name and the value. So all the strings we want it to render are in here. Then we separate each thing with a comma. Then we're going to have the type speed, which is 90, the back speed, which is 90, and the loop, which is a Boolean value, which gives true. And we close off the object with this closing squiggly bracket. And that's basically it for the new object. Okay, so if we go to our personal website, looks here. I don't like how the cursor is here. There's probably a bug with it. So I'm probably just going to disable the cursor. So sure, show cursor. I think I can do false. Let me see if there's something with the cursor in here. Yeah, so show cursor is false. And let's see. Okay, so I want to actually change this to front end developer. So I'm going to change this content. So it says, instead of just going through like the whole sentence again, I just wanted to keep the hi, I'm part of it. So, where's auto type? Actually blind. Okay, so we say, oh shoot. Hi, I'm gonna do span class equals auto type. Then I'm gonna take this out. And it looks something like this. And this will probably look a lot nicer. I wonder if I could have like another delay in the beginning as well. Sorry. So this is just straight from the docs, by the way. This is not like a JavaScript thing. But if you go like this, if this affects something. Okay, that's a bit too long. Not gonna lie. I felt like uneasy looking at that. Okay, so we go here, this, like this. Okay, let's see. Oh shit, it should be a front-end developer. Okay, I like this, not gonna lie. Let's see. Yeah, it's basically it. So that gets you a small taste of how you can use JavaScript to add some dynamic stuff to your website to make it look pretty cool. Oh yeah, the view more button. So we could also put JavaScript directly onto the HTML code with this thing called a template string. So a template string, we can use a tick back character, and you could have a JavaScript expression directly on your HTML code. So what we could do is that view more. So on the on click, instead of using a regular double quotation mark, we can use a backtick here. And what I can do is I could do a $sign followed by open and closing curly brace. Then I do window.location.href equals hashtag about. So this is basically the same as saying this, but you're just doing like window.location, which says where you want your browser to be on the web page, or like what you want to see in the web page. So if I refresh, click view more, they should go to here. And if I click on contacts like this, so you notice how contacts doesn't go all the way down because there's no content at the bottom, which is totally fine. And we have our projects, which go here, and it looks pretty cool. Okay, what's up guys? So we're completely done our website now. Looks pretty good. Now we want other people to view it. So the first thing that we could do, or the first thing we have to do, is that we have to push this code onto GitHub. Init push. All right, this looks pretty good to me. So what I have to do is I have to go on GitHub now. And now we're going to be hosting our website so other people can view it. So what you want to do, once you're done pushing it, doing these like pretty simple commands, get commit.m -m with the commit message and pushing it. Okay, now once you have your code pushed on GitHub, you want to go to our account. Let's go to our repository. So we have our index and our styles 4 minutes ago. That means we got it. So if you want to deploy your website, it's really, really easy. Okay, so all you got to do now is you have to click on your settings. Then you have to go to the pages section. And so here, this is what it looks like from the beginning. Okay, so this is on the actual workshop repo that I'm going to use. So this is what you guys should probably see if you click on pages. So we're going to click on source. We're just click on deploy from a branch if it's not done already. The branch will be main since we didn't create other branches on GitHub for this. And it'll just be on root and just click on save. Refresh. And now we just got to wait a couple minutes and it'll be up. Okay, so you can see here. So I'm back on the actual repo. So you can see here it says your GitHub page site is currently being built from the main branch. Okay, nice. So once it's done deploying, you can see your site is live at here. This like endpoint probably won't show up for you because I already have one. Like this is my really old website on here. Oh my gosh. But yeah, it should just look like this for you. But yeah, now you could look at the website, share with your friends, click on this. This looks great. And yeah, that's basically it. So there's another way of doing this as well. I'll show you how to deploy on Netlify. So Netlify is another deployment website. I find this is better when you're doing stuff with like React or Vue or like actual web frameworks because you have to deploy from a build folder and that gets a bit finicky with like the whole routing in React where I got bugs in the past where I was able to deploy a website, like a React website on GitHub pages, but the routing history wouldn't work that well. So you can see my actual websites deployed on here. So what you do, you like log in with your GitHub account. Then all you got to do here is you got to add a new site and you want to import an existing project. Then you click on GitHub. Then you got to do this auth stuff. So we're going to find our personal website Notion. Click on this. So we're going to bunch deploy from main. And there's no build settings because we're just getting the index.html file and we deploy the site. So you're going to wait for this to pass. And this is so much faster than GitHub, not going to lie. But the thing is the URL is pretty ugly. But yeah, everything's here. Everything looks great. And that's basically it. So those are 2 ways to deploy using GitHub Pages and Netlify. And that's it for the whole tutorial. Thank you if you went to the IRL session at the workshop. If you're watching this for the first time, thanks for sticking to the end. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you later.